Azure Virtual Machine. Even though in the previous chapter we have understood what is a virtual network, what is a subnet, what is a network interface card, what is NSG, and also we have created a virtual machine and we even logged into that particular machine. This particular chapter I am going to focus more on specifically virtual machine. We are going to create a virtual machine not only through portal but also through PowerShell commands. And thereafter we are also going to work with creating image from a virtual machine so that the same image once created can be used for creation of multiple other virtual machines. Eventually we are also going to cover a very important topic, that is availability sets, and finally we are going to see how the availability set can be used for balancing load between multiple virtual machines. But let us first quickly understand what is a virtual machine. A virtual machine acts like a software based computer that runs an operating system and application. So basically it is not a physical machine, it is virtual, made up of actually a software. So a software based computer. Instead of hardware based, it is software based computer, and top of it we are going to run operating system, and on top of operating system we are going to run applications. Like any other physical machine, here also we are going to have operating system and applications executing over it. The implementation of virtual machine may involve specialized hardware, software, or a combination of both. This is very important. Not all processor machines, not all hardwares would support virtual machine. You'll have to be careful about it. With server virtualization, we generally what we do is we connect multiple servers and we do a server virtualization. You can create separate virtual machines to run them concurrently on a single server that is running Microsoft Hyper-V. Microsoft Hyper-V is a software again actually, which is going to create a virtualization environment using which we are going to create multiple virtual machines on the same hardware. These virtual machines are guests, while the computer that is running Hyper-V is a virtualization server or the management operating system. So I repeat, we will have a computer wherein I can add or remove hardware as per the requirement, and all that is managed by, let us say, the Hyper-V, Microsoft Hyper-V. On top of Microsoft Hyper-V, that is a virtualization server, we are going to create many virtual machines. You can run multiple virtual machines that use different operating systems on the virtualization server simultaneously. So once you have all the virtualization done, one virtual machine can use Unix, another virtual machine can use Linux, and so on. So we are actually not so much concerned about virtualization here, because the virtualization is taken care by the Azure data center in our case. We are only using that existing virtualization environment, Azure environment, and on top of it we are only going to create virtual machines as per our need. So let us understand little more about virtual machines which we are going to create. You will choose virtual machine you need more control over computing environment than the other choices offered by Azure. Now what are the other choices offered by Azure? We have got platform as a service, which is a cloud service, and we have got app service. Now app service doesn't really give us much control of the machine on which our app is going to execute. And platform as a service gives us remote desktop access to the machine, but most of it, the configuration stuff, it does on its own through configuration file. But if you want complete control on the environment, that is the virtual machine environment on which your application is going to be hosted, then yes, you will have to go for a virtual machine service in Azure. You have complete control over the virtual machine at the operating system level. That means you are going to get a ready-made operating system, and on top of operating system, whatever you can do, you will have authority to do all those things on that virtual machine. We need to maintain the virtual machine. That means configuration, patching, maintenance, updating the operating system, creating the updates, installing the updates. All these things are also the job of the person who is managing the virtual machine administration. Like other virtual machines, a VM in Azure has operating system, storage, and network capabilities and can run a wide variety of applications. It is having a ready-made network, and that is what we have actually seen in our previous chapter. That is VNet. So a virtual machine can be part of a subnet, and subnet we know is a part of a VNet, and we can have one virtual machine communicate with another machine through the Azure network. You can use the image provided by Azure or one of its partner, or use your own to create a virtual machine. Whenever we want to create a virtual machine, we will have ready-made images available. We can either create our own image and use that. That means on my local machine, I can create an image and use that image for creation of a virtual machine. Or we can also use something from the market. Microsoft provides a ready-made market from where we can use an existing image for creation of a virtual machine. I'll demonstrate. So when you shut down the virtual machine from its operating system, it will go into stopped state and you will be charged for it. Very, very important. You can actually shut down the virtual machine. How? The way you do it on your routine server, just go to start and then shut down. Start icon and shut down from here. But this is only a soft shutdown. You are going to be still billed for it because you are still occupying the resources. But when you go to the, let us say, portal, and from portal if you stop the machine, that means you are actually deallocating the resources to it. Then you will not be billed for it. But until then, remember, you are going to be billed even if you shut down the machine through the operating system. From portal, yes, you will not be billed. Providing what is known as infrastructure as a service, virtual machine technology can be used in variety of ways. Now what are they? You can launch a Windows server or you can launch a Linux server. That is SUSE, Ubuntu, CentOS. All these are ready-made Linux server, and these machines can be provisioned in few minutes. And not only that, you can scale from 1 to thousands of virtual machine instances as per the requirement to balance the load. And it doesn't really take a lot of effort. Virtual machine for development and test. Many times what we do is, for testing we will create one virtual machine, and for development we will have a separate virtual machine, and of course for production we will have a separate virtual machine. So when we are doing development, we don't need the test virtual machine. But after development, when we are doing testing, we can probably deprovision development and test it, and after testing is thorough, then we can provision the production virtual machine. That means we can create them, use them, delete them when they are no longer needed. Applications which have spikes in demand, suddenly a lot of requests are going to come up. Yes, you can always scale in. You can increase the number of virtual machines and add and get the load divided with the help of load balancer. We are going to demonstrate this. Extend your own data center into public cloud. By creating a virtual machine and VNet, your own network, the intranet, can be extended to Azure. And on Azure, we can have things like SharePoint, SQL Server, and other virtual machines installed. So you might have the basic infrastructure within the organization, but certain advanced things you might put it into the Azure platform by extending it through VNet. Disaster recovery. If your primary data center goes down, you create a virtual machine running on Azure, run essential services or applications on that particular Azure virtual machine, bring your local data center up, and then immediately shut down the Azure virtual machine when they are no longer needed. So temporary, you can have a system running for your organization even though the primary data center is down, the local data center. And here the beautiful thing is, we save money because we are paying per minute. Only what we use, we pay for. So this is how a virtual machine of Azure it is. Azure virtual machine service is going to be used for creation of multiple virtual machines, and this is going to be controlled via portal, or even a REST API programming can be done to manage the virtual machine. Or you can use even PowerShell script for managing the virtual machines. A virtual machine is eventually stored in VHD file, and that VHD file will be in storage account. The blob, stored as a blob. So it can be a library virtual machine or a user created virtual machine. All of them can be used for creating different virtual machines. Let us now see what is a workload. A workload describes the nature of solution, whether it is an application that runs on a single machine or it requires a complex topology that prescribes the operating system used, the additional software installed, the performance requirements and the networking environment. All these things put together, we call it as a workload. I repeat, a simple machine with just one machine with the operating system and the required software, or it can be a complex topology where the operating system is going to be there, no doubt, but we will also have the additional software, and there might be a specific performance requirement, and networking also is required because they will have to talk to each other. So that's what we call it as a workload. You can deploy your existing application workloads to a virtual machine in Azure that are running either on Windows or Linux operating system. I already said that before. And where are we going to find this? In a marketplace of Microsoft. So Microsoft has a mixture of images provided by Microsoft, by third-party vendors and open source community. All of them are providing images, and these images can be used for creation of virtual machine. Azure supports creation of bare bones VM. What is bare bones VM? The one which is provided with Windows or Linux operating system, and that is built in, but on top of it we provide everything. So marketplace gives us built-in images of Windows or Linux based operating system. Those are called as bare bones VMs. But unless obviously you have something on top of it, it is all going to be useless. So required softwares you will have to install. Maybe SharePoint you will have to install. Maybe SQL Server you have to install. Or maybe your own custom software you may want to install on top of it. The marketplace provides images that can configure a complex topology consisting of multiple virtual machines. Yes, that is also provided by a marketplace. Ready-made SQL Server and SharePoint farm. Just you can provision it all together. That is the advantage of marketplace by Microsoft. VMs can be managed using browser-based portal, or you can do it through command line tools, or you can even do through PowerShell script, or you can as well write your own REST API code, maybe in C# or whatever other language where REST is supported. Finally, what is Hyper-V compatibility? Microsoft virtual machines in Azure use a well-known Hyper-V hard disk format that is called as VHD format. That means Azure is compatible with a VHD format which we can create on our local environment, upload it into Azure, and from the VHD image we can create a virtual machine, or it can be vice versa. We can have a virtual machine created in Azure. From there we can get the VHD file created, and once created we can download it locally and use that for creation of a local virtual machine. So whatever we have on Azure, we can get that locally. Yeah, a good option to get the backup or download the content to your local or private data center. So this is all about brief introduction to Azure virtual machine. Eventually, what is important is how to create a virtual machine through portal and through PowerShell commands. That is what we will see in the next chapter. Thank you.